yeah, I'm with this, I'm just gonna lay back and I'ma drop some smooth lyrics. So tune in 7 to 9:30 and don't be late. We about to set it straight. Ain't no half-stepping with Marcus J. Word. I'm ready, let's go. Ain't no half-stepping, that's the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunters talk sprinkled with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the D, legacy online. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half-stepping with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. My brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, we full force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk, running back. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, we full force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk. Steppin, that's the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunters talk sprinkled with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the D, legacy online. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half-stepper with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, we full force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk.
All right, y'all. Ain't no half-stepping. Marcus J is live. We are in the building as we do, as we say at this time every week, ready to have an outstanding show. Appreciate it. We got a lot to get to. Sometimes we tease it here, sometimes we don't. Tonight we're not. We're just going to get to the show, the flagship show, Legacy and Radio. We call it Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J, and it's live right now.
Yeah.
It's about that time. It's about that time to get. Yeah.
Button your lip, open your ears, strap on your thinking cap. Socially conscious talk that's entertaining with a dash of humor and the top sports stories of the week. It's time for Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J.
Sellers has Jordan. Jordan with 2 seconds to go. Puts it up and scores at the buzzer. Michael Jordan has won it for Chicago. Manning lobs it. Burris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. He hits one deep to right center. That ball is out of here. The Yankees win the pennant.
Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, live from NewDen of Legacy Internet Radio is live right now. Thank you to everybody that's rocking with us tonight. We appreciate those folks checking us out on Facebook Live and YouTube Live, and those folks who are checking out the archives in the future. Y'all rock with us. We continue to roll with y'all. So let's get the usual suspects introduced so we can get to the show. Of course, you hear our brother join us. He is 1/3 of Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J. He is my brother, my partner, my friend, Mr. John Green. John Green. What's up, John? How you doing, man?
you know, Marcus Magnificence, keeping it the realest. I'm doing well.
Yeah.
You know, I'm doing well. Just holding it down.
I can dig it. I like the moniker and whatnot. I think it's crazy. Yeah, I do. Like it's
It's
crazy.
befitting.
Yeah.
It's quite befitting.
Yeah. The another third of the show, my sister, your sister. She is my right hand. She sits on my right side. My sister, your Steph. Yeah. What's up, Steph?
Hello, gentlemen. Always forward,
Yes,
as we know.
it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys too. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
I spent the weekend battling a cold and whatnot. So,
Oh, you had the cooties?
yes.
Circle,
I almost
circle,
wore
not
a
dot.
mask in here, but the reason I didn't want John to give me the look. Like, what you doing? I felt peer pressure and I wasn't even being pressured.
Nah.
But you know, if I've said it, if you need me to put a mask on, I will gladly do that.
Well, you feeling better?
I am.
Yeah?
I am. I started a little road to recovery yesterday.
Yeah.
But you know, there's just those days where you think I should have stayed in bed.
Yeah.
It would have been better for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did just do that yesterday?
I did. I
Yeah.
stayed in bed for a long time.
Well, that's a good thing.
I went to bed early on Saturday. I never go to bed early.
Yeah.
No, I go to bed 2.
You a night
2:30,
owl.
I am a definite night owl.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2:00 in the morning. Now I'll get up by like 6:30, 7:00.
Yeah.
You know, some mornings 5:30 if I'm, have some things to do.
I can't do it,
But
man.
I'm going at 2:30.
Oh no, I'm no good to you at that time. hey, Shaw, you a night owl or you an early riser? Like, what time does John take it down? What time does John pick it up?
Oh, I like how you put that.
Yeah,
Pick it up.
yeah.
I'm normally in the bed around 11, but I don't go to sleep till about sometime between 2 and 4.
Okay.
And I'm up at 8, 9, maybe 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending.
I can
if
dig
I
it.
get a good sleep.
I'm that guy. No matter what time I really take it down, like really take it down, even if I was hanging out, I'm gonna be up at the same time.
That's it. Yeah.
But I'm usually because I'm an old school dude that likes to watch the 11 o'clock news. So I put on the 11 o'clock news, and that winds me down. By the time it's like over, I'm over.
It's watching you.
Yeah, it's watching me. I might get lucky and get to the second part. But every day I'm usually up somewhere in the 5 o'clock. Like I'm screaming at the birds, like, where y'all at? Yeah.
Let me tell you, I'm in bed trying to go to sleep, like I said, around 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And if I really feel like I need to go to sleep, I just go to YouTube.
Yeah.
And I watch my bushcraft because that's my thing.
Yeah.
And watch guys build like little makeshift shelters and start fires with different shit.
Yeah.
And they talk. And when they're talking, it's like
yeah. Nah. You know what my thing with that is? All right, so I guess everybody has their bedtime stories. Mine is like forensic files and crime stories and stuff. Like I hear the most terrible, vile things that humans do to each other, and it helps me sleep.
Yes. You know that.
Am I weird? Is that normal?
No, not at all.
Now,
you're just special.
You might be a little different for men, but do you know that there was a recent study done, and it said that women overwhelmingly listen to true crime, Oxygen, networks like that while they're going to sleep.
Yep.
I will literally, like, nothing else will be on, and I'll put Crime Junkies on my phone.
Yeah.
And listen to it until I fall asleep.
Man, you that's the podcast. That's the
I like my favorite.
Is it good?
Black True Crime.
Yeah.
It's these two sisters that are like Gen Z. They're young.
You're gonna have
and they bring their Gen X mom in every now and then. It's funny to listen to them interact, but they lay out. They've done a few of the crimes and missing stories from here in Richmond.
Yep. You're gonna have to put me onto that.
That's the one, Black True Crime. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to get tickets because they're doing a road show.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be here.
Yeah. See, now you got me intrigued because all day long. Not all day long. Well, yeah, all day long while I'm working, driving around, I'm listening to podcasts. That's all I do. And even before we were doing this 11 years ago, I was listening to podcasts. I always want something new. So I'm glad you
Black
you
True
mentioned
Crime
that.
is really good, and Crime Junkies, those are my favorites. But what I find interesting is really you can see how well curated these podcasts are, the true crime ones, because they like, whether it's Black True Crime or Crime Junkies, either one, I co-sign on listening to both. They really go back and do all of the research and find all of the details that were put out there before. And these people write an entire script and then they read through it and interact with one another. They're really well done. And cops have been noting that these, when they focus on like missing people and stuff, the podcasts have had a huge impact on solving some crimes.
They're investigators.
Yeah.
And I pulled it up to make sure that I get myself into listening to some of these. You done turned me on to something. Thank you.
Black True Crime
Thank
is
you.
funny because the two sisters actually, they make it light at some moments.
Yeah.
Like they'll comment on the killer and they'll because they also will stream so you can see it. And they be like, look at this picture. He looked like a killer. He look, and
with our style of commentary.
It is our style of commentary. I like it.
Yeah.
And I dig that two young women are doing this and kind of creating their own brand. I love well-built businesses. It's a really well-built little business there.
Well, being that you mentioned tickets for shows, Kevin Hart is coming to
is he really
coming to the Altria in June.
Yeah, I saw that.
So anybody with tickets,
hook a brother,
holla at me. And ladies, I'm a wonderful date. I mean, I dress up nice and I have good manners, and I will make it
Plays
look like
well with others.
I will make it look so much like it was my thing. Date. It was my thing, not yours. I get the whole masculine thing right for you. So you got tickets.
Really? All right.
You got tickets. I'll pick you up and
ladies,
everything and all that.
John just says
John just threw it out there.
Ain't no hashtag Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy and Radio. We might have to talk about that again.
Hey, look, ain't nothing wrong with we getting some, take me on a date.
We getting some love, right? And so I hope she's still with us. She dropped a couple of comments in a few minutes ago. But we getting some love. She says, "Good evening, family." She is
Cooler, your Cooler, Vonzil, your favorite MC's favorite MC.
Yes. She's saying, "I'm both burning the candle on both ends." She falls asleep on documentaries about the universe and Earth. And she misses us. We miss you too, man. We miss you too.
But you know what? I love that you are just living and being loved.
Yeah.
I love what I see.
Yeah.
On the little personal drops that you put on Facebook.
Yeah.
Keep being in love and keep being loved. You know what? I am a fan of people being in love, but more importantly, being loved.
And you can see it.
And I can see it.
And you can see you can see it. And
it's blowing up spots.
No,
it's a Cooler.
Put it out there. She look. When a grown
good.
woman loves a man, she ain't gotta. We don't hide.
She blew up her own spot. So we get Tamisha's checking us out. She said, "Talk about sweet dreams." So she is listening, and she hopefully she got some sort of crime show that she watches. So we're not the only ones.
Yes,
I got.
Oh, you know what I like? I Survived. That's the other thing I watch while I listen
because it's all about the person.
Yes,
the person is the one,
and
they're the one that's narrating.
Yes.
See, Kevin says crime shows like Fatal Attraction put me to sleep. Also,
okay,
that's on TV
these
One.
Are our people.
That one, yeah, these definitely
these
are absolutely our people. These are our people. And she says, okay, Kevin Hart is hilarious. She said, this is too funny. So I don't know if John putting himself out there to be your date or Steph and I's creepy type of thing with crime shows podcast. I don't know. Look. Which one is funny? It's probably a little bit of both, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Based on what you said a moment ago about appreciating people being loved, I had a topic that I wanted to bring up, not tonight, probably on next week's show. I would like to know, for people, men and women, because first I thought I was going to just do women, but for men and women, what do you love more, the relationship or the other individual?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Because a lot of people be in love with the us.
Yes.
They be in love with that thing.
It's like
but-
when people first get married, they just like saying, "My husband."
Yeah,
My
you know what that's
husband.
about.
You
Yeah,
know what it's about.
You know what
It's like,
that's
babe,
about.
come on.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's good to love both, but which one do you love more? Like, and what is it? Like, I mean, that's the only thing. I just want people to think about, like, audience, think
All
about
right,
that.
next
We'll
week.
talk about it next week.
Yeah.
I want audience think about that.
Yeah.
What
We
do
got
you
some hot
in a
topics today,
relationship?
as
What
they
do you
say.
love more, the other person or the relationship?
That's a very, very, very good one.
And you have to come honest with that one.
Yeah, be first. Get up enough, whatever you need to get up. Maybe
So-
it's alcohol
so-
or weed. To be honest with yourself,
Hey, yeah, keep it
and
funky.
then bring it to the show.
So here's the thing, right? John, Steph, y'all hear me, and so does the world. I'm gonna put our listeners on notice because they like this. As we're saying it, they're responding. So we hope that you will be back and let us know what exactly what exactly you want us
Little
to talk about
tease.
specifically on that one, because that's a very, very
you
good
brought
one.
it back into my head.
let
Don't
me-
think about it.
Let me get that the let's see. Tamisha says a good question. Kevin says good round table. Tamisha says definitely gonna be tuned in next week. So
Looking forward to it.
good
Thank
job.
you.
Appreciate y'all. Ain't no ass stepping with Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. So y'all ready to get to the show?
I'm ready. Let me get my first sip in.
I'm about to. Y'all,
You gonna say it?
I'm about to say it.
All right.
Steph, can I say it? John, can I say it?
Go ahead and say it, brother. Go ahead and say it.
Let us move on. Let us move on. All right. So we got so much to get into. I wasn't really sure where we were going to start, but I want to start here. We're going to talk about the young man in New York City who was killed on the subway. And this young man by the name of Jordan Neely was killed by another person on the train with him.
Daniel.
Yes. What I'm doing, I'm gonna get the article so I can read from it more accurately, so I can get a couple of the main details kind of on the table, and then we will kind of talk briefly about this. Then we're gonna have a green talk, and then a Steph is following that. And this is from CNN, giving proper credit. It basically says that he was killed on the subway car. He was known for his swift Michael Jackson dance move that entertained. But here in the article, it mentioned that he had struggled with some trauma in his life. I don't know why we need to get into the specifics of that stuff. It allowed me to kind of get to the details of what happened here in the video. It says that in the video, Neely and the other man are seen on the floor of the car. The man's arm is wrapped around his neck. The two men were on the floor for about 7 minutes, adding that he didn't start recording till about 3 or 4 minutes after the chokehold began. And so, man, this is this is definitely wow. I don't know why. Let's get into the details. Let's talk about this a little bit, Steph. Let's have you first. When you first saw this story, because they're protesting in New York City over the death.
Yeah.
And you have police, of course, clashing with protesters. Shocker.
Right.
When you saw this, the first thing you think about when you saw this?
So first of all, it happened on a Monday?
Yeah, last Monday.
I did not watch it until the weekend.
Yeah.
I just could not. All the details that I heard, I was like, I can't watch one more of these videos. It is traumatic. And I happened to be watching Simone Sanders hosting Stephanie Rule's hour of TV. It was the 11th hour. And I said, let me go ahead and watch it. You know, it's being presented by a Black journalist, a Black pundit. Let me watch it from our standpoint. The very first thing I thought when I was watching it was, number one, we are much too comfortable sitting around watching people die. Like all these people on the train. This guy has a t-shirt on and jeans. He clearly is not weaponized. The only thing that is weaponized at that point is our perception of him, because he's mentally ill and the words that he's saying feel scary or threatening based on the world in which we live. But the guy who Daniel, I guess his name, I don't know his last name, but Daniel Penny, who was they love bringing out that he's a Marine.
Yeah, that's part of the narrative.
That's the narrative. We want the great American hero. When I watched the video, he looked way too comfortable while doing this. He's making eye contact with the people around him. He is intentionally increasing the pressure of the chokehold. And I'm thinking to myself, who made you the judge and jury here? Number one. Number two, at what point was enough enough?
Yeah, 7 minutes.
7 minutes. But at what point was it we've restrained him? So I got curious. I went back and looked and was like, well, at what point did they know that Jordan had a mental health issue? At 14 years old, he was forced to testify in his mother's murder. His mother
was murdered, yeah.
And he had an emotional and mental break then, and has been managing that his entire life. When I think about the fact that we have a black mayor in New York, and this is why we say just electing black people means nothing.
You had a black mayor.
You have a black mayor. They arrested him and they released him with no charges. And the reason that the people are protesting in New York is because this clearly was a murder.
Yeah, you can see it right in front of us.
It's in front of you.
And it was
the people
ruled.
Who helped him, I have a problem with them too.
It was ruled a murder by the coroner.
It was a homicide. So
homicide, right?
So
yeah. Terminology,
right? Semantics. But so my question then becomes this: at what point is it where we make a decision that this wasn't about this young man protecting the people on the thing? This was about his own addiction to trauma porn. He's seen these things. He wants to use. I looked at him. He looked mentally ill to me. The Daniel Penny guy.
Yeah, we should mention that it was reported that Jordan was acting aggressively on the train.
He said, "I don't care if I die. I don't care if I go back to jail."
Yeah.
However,
and this would have been the impetus for this happening. But I didn't mention that. So for the point of facts, I needed to make sure we mentioned that.
And you're right. From a journalistic standpoint, absolutely agree with you. And it is a good point. At what point do you need a good guy with a gun? I get it. However, there was nothing on his person. He was wearing a t-shirt. None of his clothing were able to hide any kind of weapon. And once you had him restrained and on the ground, if you are experienced enough to put a chokehold on someone, you also knew how to restrain yourself. You chose not to. Yeah. You chose to murder him on the basis of words. That is not a death sentence, not even in a courtroom.
Not at all. Not at all. Tamisha says that she's listening. She says this is sad. She totally agrees. Insanity. So we all on the same accord. John, jump in here. You hearing what's going on? You paid attention to the story probably as much as the rest of us have. What say you, my brother?
Well, here's the joke, right? Here's the joke in this. Here's the sadness, right? If a group of men, right, attack me with weapons, and I fight back and kill them in New York City, in New York State, I can't claim self-defense, right? I have to run as far as I can and get into a position where I cannot escape this violent attack for it to be deemed self-defense. How in the hell? This man wasn't attacked. He didn't attack anyone. He got on the train just talking loud, like people do all day.
I was gonna say we're New Yorkers,
right?
How many times have you been on a train and somebody gets on just ranting, and it happens all the time?
So he talked loud, whatever. He didn't make a physical threat. He didn't say, "I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that." He didn't lunge. He didn't swing. He did nothing. As a matter of fact, the man attacked him, right? So what was weaponized wasn't his words. His complexion was weaponized, right? And the other man's complexion justified his actions. Reverse them, and that man is in jail, Marine or not.
I don't disagree.
Now, as far as Eric, that's my boy. the mayor of New York, Eric Adams. As far as what he could do with regard to this is limited. Being mayor of New York City is a funny tightrope to walk. You don't believe me? Ask Dave Dinkins, right? You gotta pander to who voted for you, but at the same time, you gotta be careful because the people that voted you in are not the people who will keep you in. The people who will keep you in will take anything you do that seems slightly in the least bit favoritive towards the people that put you in, and they get your ass out even before your term.
Particularly the unions of New York, the different unions of New York.
The issue is not with the mayor, it's with the DA.
I still have an issue with Mayor Adams.
No, I can appreciate that, but I would having that.
But I don't disagree because it's the DA's responsibility to bring the charge.
Having an issue with him, I would take out of this situation because he's been limited in his personal response to it. His office had a statement, and that was very short and concise. But the DA choosing not to file charges, he needs to lose his job, right? See and this is, did we go back to all this protesting days down on the train tracks and all this? That's bullshit. What are you doing? You're not doing shit. What you do is you go down to City Hall, you go down to the court building, and you demand, right? You demand that the DA explain themselves in legal terms. Because again, like I said, I can't even fight back against an attacker and claim self-defense to a murder. I can't. There's no self-defense if I'm not running away. This guy didn't run away. He didn't get up and go to another car. Right? He didn't move to another side of the car. He didn't take a defensive posture. He aggressively jumped on this man, took him to the ground, and choked him to death. How it is not a crime is the DA telling you, listen, again, black people, pay attention, stay in your place. Because if you get too loud and it's a white man on the train that know how to choke you, he can kill you and get away with it. So know your place, black people. Stay in your place and everything will be all right. Y'all try to get out of hand, we're going to choke y'all to death. You think Floyd was a mistake? Now we don't got cops doing it. Now we got regular civilians doing it, and it's okay. And I
think that's the big issue for me. At what point is it not okay? Like, at what point at what point is it not okay for one citizen to exact justice over another? And we're seeing this, and I'm sure we're going to talk about later, we're seeing this in our gun laws and our gun behaviors as well. And I asked that question almost, I'm asking it facetiously because it's ridiculous to even be needing to ask it.
We got to stop. We have to stop with the disillusion, with the cognitive dissonance. We got to cut it out. Listen, this is not what we think we're signed up for, right? We don't get it. We don't get it like they get it. We get a little bit, but we don't get it like they get it. And we got to stop thinking that we get it like they get it and stop trying to do stuff like them. You got to maintain. You still got to have, listen, it's 2023. You still got to have the talk with your kids.
You're going to always have to have the talk with your kids.
You still got to have the talk. Black people are starting to think that they can do the same shit white people can do in this country, and you can't. This is still the birth of racism and white supremacy. United States of America is where it was born, right? Is where it's been matured and nurtured for hundreds of years. It's not going to change no time soon. And especially if y'all still can't even acknowledge it. Again, go back to my thing. First things first, give the white man back his God. And the second thing, realize where you at. Have self-awareness, knowledge of self, and know what you're dealing with and move accordingly.
Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, live from NewDen, Legacy NNET Radio. I'll take the final word on this topic. It's an example of how, as John very eloquently put, they're going to show you what they're going to do. We know, and when we ask the question, would this be the same if the races were reversed? It would be a very difficult thing for us to accept if they told us to our face, yeah, it would be the same, because we know it wouldn't be. We know it wouldn't be. So what do we have to do? We have to manage around the bullshit. Racism ain't going nowhere. It's not going nowhere. It's here. It's what we as Black people in this country are tasked with managing around. But there will be no change, certainly not in our lifetime. Not to my estimation. Not in our lifetime. You know, so there's that. Ain't no how Steppin, Marcus J, live from NewDen Legacy. They walked on the train and choked the man out. I don't understand. I can't with us. But, you know, we also have many instances of gun violence, which we will, in fact, talk about later, that's so obnoxiously out of control that logic belies it. Ain't no how Steppin, Marcus J, live from NewDen Legacy on the radio. All right, Green Talk. John, you ready to rock?
Always.
All right. So are we setting it up, or am I doing?
Yeah, go play that clip. Audience, watch this clip, and on the other side of it, we're gonna talk about this. It's very important for y'all. Very, very important, because what Marcus was talking about as we closed out that segment about working around racism, having tools, and that's what I'm always talking about in Green Talk: financial tools, different ways to set your life up so that you're not as adversely affected by white supremacy and racism, right? This is part of it, understanding the differences in these different economic points. But we'll watch the clip, and on the other side, we'll break it down.
And this will too?
I understand the argument that it hasn't collapsed, but the numbers in crypto are not real. 1 million people lost access to their accounts at FTX. 1.2 million Americans
lost access.
They can't get their money out
because
he was running a Ponzi scheme.
Because
he stole it. Because he stole it.
Also, if you lose your PIN number, basically,
right,
you're just fucked. Right?
Yeah, you're just fucked. And they say,
I mean, there's nothing you can do.
Right. It's a DYOR. Do your own research.
And that's kind of why they use exchanges, right? Because this way somebody else is responsible, so you don't.
Theoretically. Yeah. I mean, it's just lie after lie after lie. I mean, you know, the exchanges are much more, most of them, especially the overseas ones, don't want to get in trouble here in America, are like bucket shops. Bucket shops existed until the 20s. They're fake exchanges. They take your real money and then they don't make the trade. And Sam Bankman-Fried of FTX allegedly, you know, he kind of admitted to this in like a Twitter Spaces or something. Like, oh yeah, we didn't actually even buy somebody.
Wait, if you think I don't understand this, I really don't understand NFT.
Oh, NFTs are wonderful.
What?
Oh.
Do we have a picture of some NFTs if people don't know what NFTs are? Like there's something, okay, this is something, I've seen this a million times.
Oh, yeah.
What is that called? Stupid?
Bored Ape.
Bored Ape.
Yeah.
Tell me what that is. Pretend I'm 67 years old. And I don't understand.
Just looking good.
Just go with me, Ben. Go with me on this crazy scheme. And I just don't understand this from get-go. And explain it.
I think that you do.
I don't. I really don't.
Well, does it
You're
seem
selling
like
a picture. I feel like you're selling a picture that I could also just find online.
You could right-click and save it. It's a JPEG.
Right. So what am I not getting?
Nothing. It's a scam. It's a
I told you. I told you I wasn't crazy. But people are paying hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars for this.
Well, yes, and except there's what's called wash trading in crypto and especially in NFTs. Wash trading is fake trading. You basically can set up as many accounts as you want. The pseudonymity of the blockchain obscures what accounts you control. So I basically take $1 from one hand and I put it the other, and I just keep doing that over and over and over again. And you think this thing is worth money. But then as soon as you actually give them the money, try reselling your Bored Ape. It's not the buying, it's the reselling that's the hard part.
But even if you wanted to impress, if this is going to get you laid or something.
Oh God, no, that's not happening.
Well, okay, then I really don't understand the motivation. It's not because you know art, because it's not art, and if it's not for the money. It must be some sort of bragging rights. Like, look, I own this, but why couldn't I just say that and show a picture of Bored Ape, which the guy who really has it also has exactly.
Well, what's also really funny is that, technically speaking, they're not even the art loosely defined itself. It's actually the receipt for the art. So what you bought is a receipt for a link to a JPEG of a Bored Ape.
So, yeah, people, I hope you paid attention as much as you could and you didn't get lost or bored in that segment. It's a little bit long. But what I want to let people know is that cryptocurrency in and of itself, described as a Ponzi scheme, it's closer to a multi-level marketing thing than a Ponzi scheme. You get in and you take the money from the people coming in at the bottom and you push it up to the top. That's kind of what happens with cryptocurrency. But people often get it confused with blockchain. Blockchain is not cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is born out of blockchain technology. And we're going to have the Fed now, or the Fed dollar, that's going to be based on a blockchain that is going to be our new way of spending money soon. So if you got in crypto early, if you're already in now, start, getting your exit strategy, because at a certain point, people are going to try to come in at the bottom and they're just going to lose. They're just going to lose. Just like think about multi-level marketing. A lot of us have done it, with oh my God, I can't think of the names of them now, but I done did them all, right? Because I'm good. Yeah, Amway. They changed the name. They changed the name of Amway. They made it something else.
One of the biggest fights.
We the people.
Amway, Mary Kay, Herbalife, LuLaRoe. I mean, it's
I don't listen.
One of the
links.
One of the biggest fights that I ever had with my wife very early in our marriage was over Amway.
Did they come to your house?
Nah. I got caught up in one of the conversations. One of my brothers said to me, "You ever thought about making some extra money?
Just leave your wallet at home."
And he had me. He had me. And I went home with her to her. Man, we were married a year, maybe two, whatever it was. And she
was not having
She was not having it. She gave me the business. She was like, dummy, and she didn't, she didn't say it that way, but that was the gist of the energy. And I was like, don't you see me trying to make a way for us?
So
you know what I'm saying?
So
you don't support me, you love to die. Yep.
So,
it was bad.
Yeah.
And then I go and find out through all of that, she was right.
So listen, let me
I'm glad
I gotta be
I had to learn the hard way though.
I gotta be fair as a person who's done Amway, but it was called something else for a time, and when I was doing it, they changed the name of it. I've done We Are the People, I've done 5 Links, I've done I did like 5 of them. I've done 5 of the major multi-level marketing joints. And you can make money if you know how to make money, right? It's about establishing, a downline and having people come in and do all the stuff that they do. And I was good at it, so I was able to make it happen. But the reality of it is the products that you're buying ahead of time as opposed to on time, and you're trying to sell, and too many people get in and they're not salespeople. Right. So that's a problem with that. And that's kind of like, this is why I likened it to crypto, because crypto is kind of the same way. You have to understand that the more people who use it, the more valuable it becomes, because it's based on blockchain technology. It's not banking. It's not investing. And that's the problem. Like I said, with the multi-level marketing, people get in and they're not salespeople. If you do not know how to sell, how are you going to become a salesperson? You're forced to buy, not forced to, but you're told to buy all of these products and then sell them to other people based on how you're using them, but you don't know how to sell. So you got stuck with all this stuff in your closet in the house and no money. Well, the same thing applies to crypto. It's blockchain based on barter, based on value, like couponing, right? If okay, real easy, right? A small blockchain. You got a car dealership, a mechanic, a car wash, business and a Uber driver, right? See, the Uber driver gets to use his crypto when he goes to buy a new car because the car place uses their crypto when they go to the car detailer and send their cars to be detailed at the car wash. And everybody uses the mechanic because the mechanic accepts the crypto, right? And this is how the crypto has value to more people that use it. It is not a stock or a bond. And people are trying to invest. It's not a currency like Forex on the currency exchange where the value raises and you pull money out. People are trying to do it like Forex. These aren't pips, right? People, they're not pips. You can't pull money out percentage wise every day like in Forex trading. You can't trade the news like in Forex trading. You have to be careful. What people are doing is called pump and dump, right? Like the stock market. They go in, they see it, they see a coin that somebody in his house in the basement living with his mother, him or her, living with their mother, created something, put it up on the board, and then started buying it. And the more they buy it, the more people get excited, the more people want to buy it. It still doesn't have any value because nobody's using it anywhere, but they're pumping it up. And then as soon as they get up, they pull their money out and then it crashes and you stuck at the end because you bought it at 10 cents and now it's worth less than a penny. Right? So just be careful about what you do. No more research when getting into. Now, NFTs, I would like to take a whole hour to explain non-fungible tokens to you folks. But basically, it's bullshit. It's 3-card Monty. It's an illusion. Right? It's placing a value on a purchase. How about this? It's the US dollar. You walking around with a receipt for debt, but it's not acceptable for transactions. See, the US dollar is acceptable for transactions, but NFTs are not. So stay away, stay far away. Anybody got any questions on the board?
No, there's nothing out there. But we did have a comment from Tamisha. She said it's good and informative. So she's enjoying, definitely. Here's what I would say about crypto. I made and she said that's funny when I mentioned the story about Amway and me and my wife when we were younger. When crypto got on my radar was probably around 2017 or so. And we did shows. We did shows, in the den where we brought people in and had whole conversations and we talked about crypto and we talked about how it was going to change all our lives and all of that stuff. Many of us was sold on it, and I had my own foray into it. I had my moment where I thought that one day it was going to pop. You know what I mean? Bitcoin gonna do it for me, y'all. Yeah, come on, man. And then I realized that nah. And I don't have the shall they say I don't have a heart for that. When you talk about people that go to the casino, to go to the casino and they like to gamble, I'm not the one that has the heart for the gamble of money. It's too important to me to have than to gamble.
I will gamble yours, but I don't want to gamble.
Exactly. And crypto became too much of that.
Yeah.
And so when I got to the point where, you know what, I can't take this no more, I left it. And for those who are still in it, hey man, I hope that you get as rich as we all thought that we would get back in 2017 and 18. But the likelihood of that happening, I don't think is very, very, very high.
No.
Okay, so the people I know got in around 2015, and they took what was less than $5,000 investments, and they all made over $1 million with it.
Yeah, because they got in.
I got in around 16. I took a $500 investment, and it was well over 50,000 in like 18 when I came here. But somebody lost my number, my key.
Yeah, well,
so
if you don't have your pass key,
A hard drive failed, and so went my key.
Yeah. You got any crypto or Amway style stories that you'd like to have us roast you about, since I exposed myself?
You know what? Mine is not really that way, because I've worked in the corporate space, particularly as a sales pro for so long. People tend to invite me to every MLM, and I have offended many people telling them what I think about MLMs, and my thoughts about MLM are very much based on my industry expertise as a true sales professional. So I don't get involved with them when when people try to jazz them up and make them seem like something they're not. I'm like, it's an MLM. It's a pyramid scheme. I know you got to the fancy new name of the MLM and everything else, but
you said MLM like 3 times before I caught up with what she said.
MLM. Oh,
and
yeah,
then I was like,
multi-level marketing.
yeah,
But
I'm slow.
Because originally when it was being called a pyramid, it's a pyramid scheme. It's a pyramid process and so on and so forth. And then semantics. Oh, no, it's a MLM. Listen, it's all the same. And the thing that I think bothers me is that if I have to bring in 15, 10, 20, 12, whatever amount of people in order to make money, and my money has to be attached to their labor, and anyone who says it's not in an MLM is a liar, but if my money is attached to their labor, this is problematic business model in the first place. And I remember during my I got my master's in organizational psychology. I actually did my thesis on MLMs. So I am probably not the person you want to argue with about it, because I took my time. You don't just get a master's degree and just write a 2-page paper. You know the process, right? And so I spent a lot of time digging into MLMs. I find them extremely fascinating. I think the best salespeople in an MLM are always the people at the top. And let me tell you how much. While I dislike it because I don't like the lies and the scheming around it, and also the falsehoods around it, and the way people misrepresent them because they know that it's cagey. They know this. The people at the top make the money because in order for it to be something that's really relevant, you have to be the one that comes up with the idea. So after I wrote my master's thesis, I spent time trying to identify what kind of MLM I could create. Because no different than I believe I could become a very successful prosperity preacher, I believe I could create an extremely successful MLM. But it's because after doing the homework, you see all of the mechanisms and all of the scams, and even churches have that process. And there is that evangelical bent that you put into the very best MLMs when you start breaking them down. So I think it's interesting. And when people talk about MLMs around me, I'm usually pretty quiet, because I love hearing all of their, thing. But I'm like, no, I literally wrote my thesis on it. And, that's how I got my organizational psych master's, is writing a thesis on MLMs, and it's garbage. And truly, it's one of those spaces where, you will always find people who are looking for the get rich quick mechanism. It is very easy. I even created a section of my thesis where we talked about how it is used very much like for-profit universities. I won't name them, but I wrote a paper about those too. How for-profit universities target the weakest and the people who have the least in order to bring them in, convincing them that they'll have the most. But we all know, in the grand scheme of daily life, that's not how money works. So it's really interesting, the psychology built around an MLM to convince poor people that a very small investment is going to make you a master of wealth. No, it is to feed the people at the top who created and designed the system. Now, if you want to do it, that's fine. It's not my money. I'm not losing anything. But I mean, I could sit and have hours-long conversation and debunk anybody who came to me about an MLM, because I've done more homework on an MLM than the people who actually invest their little dollars in them.
So that's the problem, what you just said. People go in and they don't do any homework. They do no homework. And
They go in off the energy. That energy is a big part of pulling people in.
Listen.
It's an evangelical
if you haven't gone to any other conventions, let me tell you something. There's lights, there's fireworks, there's explosions, there's music.
Ships, they do it all.
They do it, but listen, I've been in quite a few, right? And I'm gonna tell you the ones that and I cannot grade them all the same. The ones that have their own independent product that they sell, right, are not as bad as the ones who try to get you to independently market already existing products.
I'm okay with that, but I also want to acknowledge with the words that you used, the 3 words that you used, not as bad,
right?
Meaning they are still bad, and that's my thing
let me,
about
but let
MLM.
me say this: they are bad because of the audience.
Listen,
right?
When I start mine, y'all can all come in. I am a master at sales. I am certified in so many sales areas. I train business owners. I sit on the board of several companies as their fractional sales manager. I will literally train you on how to run an MLM well. And really, really, if you want to dupe everybody and make money off it and everything else. But the point is, that is ultimately the goal, is for it to feed the very top of the pyramid and keep it going. And it you cannot tell me anything different. I've sat with people who have created them and for the purpose of that product and that paper. And when people are very honest about it, or when you want, what's even more important, go to the ones that failed and dissect them. It is a master's class in how to use the desire to be wealthy to bring people in to create your wealth. And that is the part that I find phenomenal.
But what I was trying to get at is, what makes it bad isn't necessarily the model. What makes it bad is when they take it and they put it, like you said, they go target people who they know cannot operate this model.
But that's the model. That is the entire game, though.
See,
that's the gag.
But no, if you have a situation like I've had We the People and 5 Links were 2 of the ones that I didn't have an issue with, because they had training programs, right? Although some of the people who know, but their training programs actually trained the people for what they needed to know. The problem was there should have been a prerequisite for people coming in, whether or not the training was going to take, because that initial investment comes in before you go to training. That initial investment comes in before you even have any idea whether or not you can market.
That's the point for the people.
Multi-level marketing.
But
if you are not a marketing guru, you can't do this.
And let's be real. And I get a little offended at when I tell people what I do for a living. Like, since I was 19 years old, all I've ever done is people, paper, process. I've sold everything you could possibly imagine. I've sold high-end investor analytics tools for Reuters. I have sold catering software. I was a headhunter. I built a sales firm so that companies would come to me and I would be the person who did the selling for them. So I spend a lot of time dissecting people and their process. I got a degree in organizational psychology because sales is purely that. The interesting thing to me is the average person is not a good marketer or salesperson, and the average person thinks they are. And it almost diminishes the work that those of us who really spend a lot of time in that space, understanding how the mind works and why people buy and why they're triggered and so on and so forth. And it's like, I don't care what somebody teaches you. Somebody can teach you a million things. It does not mean you're good at that sales game.
Well, I said
even a blind squirrel can find a nut. Right. And a lot of times the problem with the MLM, and again, I stand 10 toes down on, it's a terrible business model unless you're at the top of it. It really just is. Because again, you have to then, not only do you have to be a salesperson, you need to be entrepreneurial enough and have enough of a business management background to now manage the people to get them to produce so that you eat and therefore that you feed the top. And no MLM. I don't care how well structured. I don't care what the program is. I don't care. No MLM is created without the intention of bringing people in who do not truly understand sales and marketing. The people who are going to be the experts want to keep people out like me. Truly, I have been invited to come in and I've told people, I'm like, I'm not your target. Just because I'm better at sales than most people, I'm still not your target. The guy who built this model does not want me in the room, because I'm not going to be the one that says, this one's not as bad as this one. I'm going to point every single element out in every single MLM out there. I don't care if you're selling Herbalife, blacking out the doors on the building you're in and not really telling people what it is until they walk in and you got a little fancy shake. Yeah, I don't care what you're selling. If you're in an MLM, it's a Ponzi scheme. It's a pyramid scheme that's been reworked. It's been rejiggered. It's been the elements that need to be legal have been brought in to legalize it, and they should. Some people will make money. The majority of people do not. You see it on paper all of the time. And I would tell people this: if you're really interested in making money and someone is promising you that you pay me first to do it, it's an immediate red flag. It's an immediate red flag. That is why we get the money up front, so I don't have to train you, because those training dollars are 95% of the big revenue.
And
that's why they
guess
keep
how
pushing you to bring the upline and the bop.
Guess how I built my downline? By buying people in. Like, listen.
There you go. It happens all the time. You're not the first or the last.
I know how good you're gonna be at this, because I know you. I'm gonna buy you in.
You hear how slimy it already sounds, John? Yeah, it's proving my point. My money on my masters was well spent. The look on your face when you said it. It was very New York on the corner rolling dice look. That's what it was. Yeah. And they love us. They love Black folk because we want to be wealthy. We want money.
I learned the hard way everything that you said was true. Y'all are basically saying the same thing. Just
one of us likes it.
Hey, listen, this is what I know. I know like this. If you have levels, take levels 1 through 10. Okay.
Y'all both saying that's some bullshit, really different. Man, I wish I knew y'all.
Look,
well, you're still married, so your wife didn't divorce you over
back in the early 90s. You know what I'm saying?
So no, here we go. Right, you take levels 1 through 10. Right, you go like this: 10 is the top, and 1 is the bottom. Right, 7 through 10 make money, 1 through 6 don't, and that's just how it is. If you don't have a path to get to level 7, then don't get in.
I should throw my thesis out so y'all
don't get in.
Yeah.
No, listen. Listen, I'm telling you, I have been invited to MLNs because I'm good at it. And I didn't see a path where I was going to get to 7. So I declined. But most of the time I said I can get to 7 because I can get these people. I got tired of selling people I know. Right. So recently someone has a new one, and it's a good friend of mine and some celebrities. They have a new one, and it's pretty good, and it is based in life insurance. And they really wanted me in because that's my area of expertise. But I couldn't go in because I can't sell to people I know anymore.
Yeah.
I can go in. You can invite me as a speaker, and I will go into a room of 1,000 people, and I'm gonna sell at least 700 of them on a guarantee. But I can't build a downline anymore because my circle is too small. I don't work. Part of a big part of having a good downline was I was in corporate America, so I had so many coworkers in a corporation that I could get to. But I don't have that anymore. I'm retired. My circle is small, and everybody who I know knows me and knows better because I told them.
Ain't no Hastel Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy and Radio. So we got 2 wonderful, wonderful people that we need to acknowledge before we shift to episodes, right? The first one, because this brother is so outstanding and a podcaster and an internet radio personality and one of our favorite people. Our brother Barry Farmer is listening to us of the Barry Farmer Morning Show, syndicated 101 The Fam. Love this man. He let me know they couldn't hear me, y'all. I didn't even have my own mic on while I was talking. And thank you just a few minutes ago. So thank you, Barry. Thank you, Barry, like for real, because I'd have went on and to the people watching, I just you know what I mean? And with those
and
folks,
I'm looking right at
you know what I'm saying?
See,
and I'm so happy
usually
because
we could pick up Steph's mic on mine. I usually turn mine off when I put it down, but Steph Lee's on, the room kind of comes.
I'm so happy. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. He also is putting you over, Steph. Let him know, Steph. He got a couple more things in here. He says you ain't live unless you are sold perfume in the parking lot.
Oh,
and then he said Lula Rowe is a perfect example.
Perfect. You know, I just want to piggyback off that right there. Thank you for mentioning Lula Rowe. So what I've always said, and you know, listen, I'm a Virgo. We're the villains that people think Geminis are. We love a good idea and we know how to make it happen, right? Think about Michael Jackson learning from Paul McCartney that the best way to make money is to own your music, and then Michael Jackson going and buying the Beatles catalog. That's a Virgo. That's a Virgo move right there. We understand how these things work. So this is the problem with Lula Rowe, and this is the problem with most MLMs, and where the only MLM I would ever sign up to would be one that tells me we accept limited individuals to sell our product so that you can make money. But they're never going to do that because that's not how the money feeds the people at the top. So with Lula Rowe, they had so limited inventory, and they brought in tons of people because it's making them millionaires. All these people who are buying in, I want a $5,000 package of your see-through leggings, you know, your cheap little leggings. They started making the leggings here in the US. And when the need for the product exploded, they sent it over to China. So now product quality drops. Now they've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women, more than they anticipated in the process. They paid for all this stuff, but they cannot get product. They can't get the product they want or need. So I think if you ever meet someone who's designed an MLM where they have where they say we're going to have a limited amount of people in your state that are allowed to be selling this product, and then you can create your team and literally create revenue, then you'll know that it's a great process. But that wouldn't be an MLM. That would be a true business model. And so MLMs by nature are meant to feed the people at the top, and the way that they feed themselves is that additional revenue of building your quote unquote downline. That's what it is.
I will say this: 5 links is fabulous. My downline still makes money to this day, and if I was to turn back on my own corporate number, I would make some money too. But
let's be real.
5 links.
If we got to find that 1 in a million, MLMs suck.
And that's what it is.
All right. Period.
Okay, got
it. Yeah.
Put a bow on it. Ain't no half step. Yeah.
And
I keep saying put a bow. Yeah.
Got the bow on it today.
There you go. I like that. You know, I still Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy in the radio. That's an old phrase that I use. Put a bow on it. That's like, you know, we agree. The last thing we said, put a bow on it. And then this is like second week in a row. I look over, it's like, oh yeah, Steph got a bow on. Last week you didn't have it.
Have it on.
This week you got one. So there you go. That's what we call a double entendre. And you know how Steph Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. So we got one more thing to do before we move on to Stephisodes. She said good morning. And she's been patient, waiting on us to give her salutation that we give every single week. And I am so happy, just like Steph and John. So we can look in the camera and we can say, good morning, Sue. Peace to you. You got to do it again. You got to do it again. You got to do it again.
Yes.
Good morning, Sue. Yeah, so there you got all three.
So I
See,
was all
now
up
you
in the
got two at
comments.
one time. You know what I'm saying? That's why I love you, Sue, being all extra nice to you. And she can't harass me for being extra nice to her because she's not here in the room.
Yeah, she doesn't like that.
Well, you know, she'll make mean faces. If I'm too nice, she'll make mean faces, you know, and I don't care because that's just how I do. All right, so ready to move on? Ready to move on? Let's get it. Let's move on to Steph episodes.
Okay.
And I'm going to play a clip as we did with John, but I want you in Green Talk, but I want you, Steph, to set up Steph episodes and tell the folks about the clip that I'm about to play.
Okay.
So that we can set up the topic and so we can set up this piece of the show. So what we got?
Okay. So this is pretty popular. This has been going on for the bulk of the week. It's Ebony K. Williams, who is a journalist. She has her own news show. She was on the Real Housewives of New Jersey or New York at one point for like a season. And she was too real and too black, and they literally, she blew up the Real Housewives of New York. They got rid of the franchise and decided it was lacking diversity, and clearly it wasn't a space that was welcoming with black people, and if they couldn't have it, they weren't going to have it at all. So Sister has her opinions. She brought Iyanla Van Zant onto her news show, and they were discussing relationships and dating, and this is where it leads to. Iyanla starts out, would you date they had a long conversation before this, but Iyanla asked her, would you date a bus driver? And the internet exploded and is consistently exploding and stitching this on TikTok and everything else because of Ebony's answer. Wait, hold on.
No. If he owns the bus, that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem. Okay. Because the standards. Would you date a bus driver? Would you date?
If he owns the bus, if he owns it, if he owns the bus,
that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem. Okay. Because the standards and requisites, and I'm not talking about him laying on his sofa playing video games all day. I'm not talking about that. But the standards and the criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women and who they are in this society. I would date a bus driver if he loved driving the bus, if he was a man of integrity, if he was good to his mama, if he treated me well, I would date a bus driver. But we think that it's another human being's responsibility to give us what we need instead of us building together. I can build with a bus driver. I'd have my little stash over on the side in my prenup, but I could build with a bus driver. So I think some of the criteria that we look for in the reality of today keeps us unhappy, keeps us angry, keeps us imbalance. And then when the men show up, we want to beat them up because they're not living up to our standards and criteria. And it's not working, beloved. It's just not working. So it's not that it's bad or wrong. It's obsolete. It's obsolete. We have to come up with a new way of being. I don't believe in carrying a man. A man has to do for himself.
Okay, so you heard there that Iyanla did not like that Ebony K. Williams said that she would not date a bus driver unless he owned the bus. And Ebony was immediately attacked based on, now, mind you, she dropped that little segment as a run up to the show. So it's a little bit of entertainment too. She used what she knew would create conversation, and people are unhappy with her. She was brought on the Breakfast Club. There was a whole lot of conversation there. And she goes on to go deeper, for those who didn't see the rest of the interview, to talk about mediocrity, how we view ourselves, and how we're performing as a collective.
The 50,000 plus comments posted on social, I only saw a handful that even considered the possibility of a bus owner being a more aspirational position, and recognizing that I am actually speaking and pouring into the ascension of Black men when I said what I said. But see, no, some of y'all were too busy naming and shaming me personally and Black women in general as undesirable, gold diggers, and much worse. Now, I suspect that some of y'all are the same men that were bringing home C's and D's on your report cards, only to then be coddled by parents that said, well, that's okay, as long as you're doing your best. Well, listen, I love and believe in the excellence of Black men. So no, my dear, C's and D's or any other form of mediocrity is not okay. No, I will not create a soft place for you or anybody that I love to fall comfortably into the bigotry of low expectations. So I'm going to say one more time, there's absolutely nothing wrong with driving a bus. My mother Gloria drove one for years. But could it be that Black America has been sold a narrative of average, regular, and typical being good enough for us? Well, see, that's called white supremacy. And in this case, it takes the form of conditioning Black Americans to happily accept being a permanent American underclass. But see, because I know the truth about Black folk in America, no, average is not and will never be good enough for me. And the gag is, I don't think it's good enough for you either.
All right. Okay. So where Ebony explained or did her follow-up, she was discussing how a lot of people, Umar included, started saying, oh, this is talented 10th talk, this is Black excellence talk that erases Black people and so on and so forth. And Ebony K. Williams' point was, we have gotten very comfortable with average and with mediocre and with mediocrity, and we have started to coddle and make space for that. And she says that that actually is the premise of white supremacy, which is that Black people, this is the best you can do, so accept it, and this is the best you can do, so live with it. And when you are pushing people to do better, in her case, she's like, no, I don't want to date the bus driver. If that's the best he can do, that's okay. It's just not good enough for me, because I think we're better than that. And she goes on to say that even on the Breakfast Club, she's like, I think if you're living up to your very top line expectations, great. She says, but you cannot tell me that statistically, based on where we are financially in this country, that we are all living up to our greatest expectations. And one of the things she points out is, she said that, us not meeting a standard that we established for ourselves is problematic. And it showed up during the pandemic. Us dying at higher rates because we're in positions of service. We're in positions where we are more exposed. Our healthcare organizations failing us because, again, we are not experiencing certain levels of growth. And she talks about how poverty impacts us. Everyone really wanted to focus on the dating thing, but this is the other thing that I would ask. What woman making millions of dollars is dating is naturally going to be exposed to the bus driver? And the same for most men. When we watch athletes get famous and things like that, they're not out looking for a bus driver. And I hate to use, I'm using that just because of what it was used for, but they're not dating the girl who's at the toll booth. They're not dating the girl working in Walmart. When people ascend to a certain level financially, they're dating within certain spaces. And when they don't, and she mentions this, someone else mentions this, often when they don't, particularly women, you see how things turn out. Mary J. Blige is a great example of dating below your standard and ending up in a bad situation. Sherry Shepherd, Monique's first marriage. There are a lot of famous women that have dumbed it down, so to speak, and chosen to date beneath the standard in which they should be at. And really what she's asking is, are we accepting mediocre and saying that it's good enough and that it's okay, white folks do it too, without realizing that their average doesn't impact them as negatively as our average or below impacts our communities? Is she wrong for saying that we should elevate the standard of living that we expect? And that's the question. So here's her final statement when she was asked about you know, why she won't date at a certain level, she talks about the need for security. And this was an interesting clip.
That provided or protected me. I've yet to have a male energy that provided or protected me consistently ever. So I think that I have taken on the reins to protect and provide for myself. Because what I'm not going to do, Ayanla, is be without. Baby, it's not happening.
Be without what?
So that would be without protection, and be without the necessities of life.
And she's, you know, what can you say if she hasn't experienced that? And that, so that comes down to that question about, you know, I know we John and I go back and forth about what the community is supposed to do. And John is always like, well, you know, white people do too. And I always come back with, I don't give a shit about white people, right? This is one of those times where it's like, again, Black women predominantly date within our race. Predominantly, more so than any other race. When Black women don't, you'll see our numbers of marriage are lower. It's because we often don't look outside to find something else. We assume that if it's not right here, we just can't have it. So what she's saying is, you want me, this woman who's on a certain level, to accept a man who is, in my opinion, underperforming. And she's saying, at what point do we look at ourselves and gauge if we truly are living up to our expectation? Now, I will say, I was a parent who did not accept C's and D's. I was a parent that was checking ed line. I wanted to know what you were doing. I was a parent that was telling my son that you are too smart to play dumb. I was a parent that was acknowledging what my daughter's strengths were. In the community, often, are we accepting mediocrity and then training that it's what's acceptable, and that if you don't accept it, you're the problem?
I think we are. I think we are, especially when you have those of us who have issues with interracial dating. I'll just use that as an example. There are those who want you to stay within your race regardless of who may be the potential mate for you. For example, and I won't even use gender, or perhaps we should. For the purpose of this, perhaps we should. Just off of how we're trained in this country, we are trained that there is hierarchy to profession. Doctors and lawyers are up here. Everybody else is below that. And certainly a bus driver, a sanitation worker, folks of that ilk would be below that. Are we on the same page before I continue?
That is how it,
so
it would be stated.
If we were to assume that this sister is a doctor, just for the purpose of...
She's a lawyer.
She's a lawyer. Okay. I was getting ready to say, for the purpose of the discussion, we ain't got to do that. We already got real life
she's an attorney.
Example. So she's an attorney. There are those who would say, because she's an attorney, her mate should be commiserate with her, and anything below that,
equally yoked,
is beneath her, is beneath that profession. I ain't got a problem with it if that's her choice, because she should not have to be pigeonholed by what society says she should be. If someone is not up to par in her eyes, for her or for him, or for that matter, but we're talking about her, I got no problem with what she's saying. Now, I will say this: there are those who are going to jump on, and I saw you when you were speaking, make sure that we didn't do this. There's no aspersions we're casting on a bus driver.
No,
but there are those who are going to do that. That will make the things that she said seem like it's something wrong with her. But I don't have a problem with what she said, because she's talking about what she would require. And if that's the way she would lead other folks, I got no problem with it at all. Because real talk, as a man, I wouldn't want to be with someone that isn't, as you used the phrase a few minutes ago, equally yoked with me. Like, we need to be able to take these steps together. And if I feel as though I need to be doing more than what you bring, certainly as a woman, because at the end of the day, that's man tax. Again, I use the phrase man tax. You're supposed to be the protector. You're supposed to cover her. At the least you should be on her level. and she gets to decide what the level is. So if you're an attorney and the guy drives a bus and that's not something that you want, hey, I'm not going to argue with her about what she wants. I think anybody that does, I think that's a challenging thing. Let me get a couple comments in and get John in. Let's see. Caitlin Graham Bell says peace. Peace to you. Thank you for rocking. Our sister Alexis, peace to Jersey City, is saying 100. Appreciate you as well. John, jump in here. What say you on the topic?
There's a couple of things that I have issue with. I'll address the first one first. I spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. I think we need to try to pull back a little bit on the narrative that because we're black, we have to be better, right? You need to do more to get equal in this country because of racism and white supremacy. But just because you got more melanin doesn't mean that you have to be better than everybody else. Otherwise, you're failed at blackness.
That's
also,
not what she's saying.
I didn't say.
Okay,
I didn't say. But no. All right. Let me preface everything with this. When I'm speaking about the subject matter, I'm not necessarily going to what she said in particular or her format. I'm saying the way people act and react to the topics. And the way people act and react to this topic is they all this, we were kings and queens and we were the listen, for every king and queen, there was a million subjects, right? It's just not how it works. Everybody, if this woman is a lawyer, God bless her, she did the hard work and made the sacrifices, and her mother, who drove a bus, made the sacrifices so she could go to school and become a lawyer. But guess what? The numbers dictate that that's not what most people are going to become. The word average is a mathematical term. It's based on the average. And the majority of people are average.
Well, that was her point. She made that point on the
That's
Breakfast
the majority of the people are average. So if you are an exceptional person and you want to exclusively date in the exceptional pool, then you are prepared to accept what comes along with that on your counterpart. Because in that pool of exceptional men, you get a lot of stuff that women say they don't like. Because what comes with being that exceptional man is a certain attitude of disregard for others. And it's a certain attitude of selfishness and inconsiderateness that a black man has to have if you're going to get on top and stay on top.
We experience that when we date men who are not exceptional.
Okay, I didn't say that.
I just want to
listen. It's not exclusive. Listen, it's not exclusive, but it is. I will guarantee it is much higher in that realm.
I would not.
As a man who's played it
as
on
a
all
woman
the sides,
who has dated in both of those pools, I would not.
And I will say this. I feel we're going over to another part of the subject. I feel it is more important, that it's most important for you to be with someone who you enjoy being with. Now, that doesn't mean that you should carry them, pay for them, or do anything like that. Let's go off the top and say that this man feed, clothe, house himself, takes care of his own stuff, pays his own bills. If you enjoy being with this man and you ain't got to come out your pocket for him, then be with that man. Don't say, I can't be with you, even though I enjoy your company and I like who you are. I just can't be with you because you drive a bus.
Why not?
That's because
if that's her choice.
But it's not really her choice.
Why isn't that her choice? That's the whole point.
Because she is ignoring someone.
She don't care about him. She gets to ignore him.
No, that you didn't hear what I said. Let's try it again.
No, I'm
This
listening.
is a person who you
listening.
like. This is a person who you enjoy their company and like spending time with them, right? but you're going to deny yourself this person who you like and who likes you simply because they don't make as much money as you.
Because they can't provide.
But
not even so much that. Because she gets to do that.
Yeah, but guess what? Choice. But okay. That is her personal and private choice. But I don't believe that that is a successful format in relationship building. I think it is much more important for an individual to be with someone who they enjoy being with, because you'll mess around and be with someone you don't like just because they make as much money as you.
I think that we are looking at this differently. Let me tell you how I'm looking at it. I think I understand how you're looking at it. How I'm looking at it is all of those things. I will concede that to you, right? But where I won't falter is through all of that, she is ultimately the arbiter of who is worthy of her.
Listen,
so if she chooses to say, I'm a lawyer, he's a bus driver, I can't rock with him solely because I love him, I think he's great, I think he'd be a good blah, 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 add all of the cool things about him, but he drives a bus, that's my deal breaker. She gets to say that.
Okay, so now what happens when men come in with their deal breakers?
They do all the time.
I didn't say they don't, but they get we can't lift
and we move on.
Forget about acceptance. We can't uplift one and downplay the other. If you're a man and you got a standard and your standards are what your standards are, then people should not, just like they shouldn't belittle her, they shouldn't belittle that man who says he's not going to date a woman because of XYZ, whatever it may be.
It happens all the time. And if you watch successful Black men, it's funny. I after Harry Belafonte died, it circulated the statement of him talking about how dating white women was revolutionary and how that became the way they were revolutionary. We showed up with their women. And that was something they built a platform on. Like literally, that was your civil rights moment. This was what this man said out of his mouth.
I missed that.
And I almost sent it to you too in our group chat.
But that's not okay.
But men have long been stating what the standard is. Women literally are doing things to their body because they're trying to live up to the standard of what was established by the patriarchy. That's just the way, that's what we live in. We're used to that. What I think is being missed is really when she was talking about it and what people don't like, she said, look up the word average, look up the word mediocre. Don't be mad if that's what you live up to. Just understand that if middle of the road is okay for you, and if that's what we're pushing in our community, that our kids are C and D people, expecting my children to live beyond that is not expecting them to live up to the measure of white people. It's me expecting them to live up to their greatest measure. And I think you're better than average. I think you're better than a C student. Now, if that's all you are, and that's all you expect life to offer you is your mediocre, average performance, that's fine. I just don't necessarily want to be attached to it, knowing that with that comes a lot of other things.
In her statement, she says something that sounded like, I got something different from it, but on the surface, it sounded like she was saying that the Black community is better than average and should do better than average. And the only reason that they are average is because they accept being average. And my issue with that is it's not true. People are average because people are average. It has nothing to do with being Black or white.
Yeah, but she literally, and there's another one where she brings a full study and she says, our performance as average people harms us more. And it's true. It harms us more. Now, yes, people are average across the board. There are average white people and average Asian people and so on and so forth. She is right. Statistically, it does not harm them as much.
It's less of us.
But that's what I always say.
Hold on, but it's not just that there was less of us. What she said was, you can literally look at the statistic, and whether it is based on how the world is built around us, how Black people are viewed in general, when we live an average life, it creates below average circumstances for us. We're not isolated. We're not insulated from the pain of mediocrity the way other people are. And what she was saying was, it's okay for us to accept more of one another. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree that it's problematic that and will cause long-term issues that for every 3 Black girls that go to an HBCU, only 1 male goes. That creates long-term issues within our community. And we can talk and say, well, everybody has average people. Her point and the study's point is mediocrity impacts us differently. There were more of us dying during the pandemic. There are more of us exposed to ill treatment in the healthcare system. There are all of the more of us that live in a mediocre or average position, it impacts us more significantly than white guy Joe and his mediocre. And she's like, I'm okay if you want to be average. I'm even okay. Stephanie Bryant is okay if you like average. It's okay to me if you view Black people as this is the best they can do. I'm okay with that. I just don't believe that about our people.
I believe that our people are not much unlike every other people. The only difference is, again, we do not get as much out of our efforts, and we suffer more for our transgression.
So we should underperform.
No. That's not what I'm saying.
But
that's
that's the point.
But that is not it at all. What I'm saying is this: our same effort, equal effort, gains us less.
I don't disagree with that.
Our transgressions are more harshly punished.
I don't disagree with that.
What that is called is America. Welcome. If you don't know it, I'm sorry, you stupid.
No, I'm sorry
wait,
you dismiss how mediocrity impacts us when we underperform.
Let me finish. You using the verbiage, what you're doing and what she's doing.
You don't like the words.
No, it's fine. Listen, it's fine, right? But what I'm saying is, you go past where we need to go, and we don't fix the problem. The problem is we now have tools, right, that you could take your mediocre ass and use and get better benefits out of your results and have less punishment for your transgression if you know how to use the tools. And I speak about them every week, about the tools, the things to do, the simple, small things that white people do that Black people don't do at all, change the results in their lives, in their average lives. Because I don't care what you do or what you say, numbers don't lie. People lie, numbers don't. And the numbers say that average people are average people, average all the way around, Black, white, blue, purple, or what have you. The results of the impact is what's different. And the way that we change that is by taking the tools, showing these people how to use these tools, and explaining to them why your average is yielding you less result than the average.
So, okay.
Teach, don't preach.
No, but you can do both. You can also acknowledge that, because one of the major points she makes is how we often will glom on to average because we don't like the feeling of hearing the words that you're underperforming, bruh. Sis, you are mediocre right now. You could be doing more. You're doing less.
Lead with that.
But that's what she said.
You could be doing more. Don't lead with
said.
You're not doing as much as you should.
No, it's the
you
same
could
thing.
be doing.
Just
it's
don't
not
like the tone.
No. Listen.
You don't. And this is
semantics.
This is where the problems come.
You know,
this
as
is where the problems come in.
As an expert in what you do and having a master's, you understand that people respond differently to different stimulus.
I don't disagree with that.
You do not. You will get more people. No, but you will get more people to respond favorably and do better when you lead with "you can do better," as opposed to you're not doing.
Well, that wasn't what she said, and I listened to all of her stuff, and she literally said that. Even on the Breakfast Club, she said we have gotten to a point where we make excuses for the mediocrity. We make excuses for the average. We say other people, other races have average people too. Stop acting like we need to be more excellent. And she's like, we actually do have to work harder. We actually do. We actually should place an expectation on one another to live up to the standard for which you should be here and performing to. She also said, if that's not where you are, I'm okay with that. But the fact of the matter is, it's not, you can't call people stupid and then also say, yeah, but mediocre is just kind of what everybody's doing. No, the problem is mediocrity and average performances impact us more. You just said that. And therefore, we need to be more conscious of that. Not just conscious of, listen, as people, we're already conscious of everything people do against us. We're able to sit down and talk about how our transgressions get us more time, how crack gets more time than coke, how this, that, and the other. We already know that. So what about now? Listen, crack gets more time than coke. Why the hell are you out there with crack in your pocket? Why are you selling it? Why are you using it? Why are you exposing yourself to the police? That is below average for what you could be doing with your life.
Ain't no hashtag Marcus here live from NewDen Legacy Net Radio. I want to shift us. I know, John, you want to get in, but guess what? I haven't. My turn. And Steph stole a little bit of my thunder there at the end, because when we talk about average, I'm not one for the scientific breakdown of the numbers and all that kind of stuff. That's not what I do. What I do is pay attention to people. And when I pay attention to people and I look at our people, I look at us accepting bullshit all the time. All the time. We hear her say, accepting average. She's a lawyer, the bus driver. I dig all of that. But what I related to is how we see our own communities in disrepair and we do nothing about it. It's the same conversation. It's in a different context, but it's the same conversation. When we see young men with their pants off their asses, we see our young sisters not checking them. Why? Because we don't check them. So what they gonna do? When we see the nonsense that happens on our street corners and we turn an eye like we didn't see it just go down, that's accepting nonsense. And we know the things that we should be doing. We don't need no civil rights leader. All we need is grandma and grandpa, and pay attention to the lessons that we all know. So I'm speaking of it in a different kind of context, but when I'm hearing her say, quit allowing bullshit to be the norm. Y'all could talk the numbers. You guys are probably more equipped than I am to do that. But what I'm hearing from her is just we as a culture, Black people, culture, Americans, fill in your own demographic. We sit around and we let the lowest level of our people dictate how we move as a general consensus. And it ain't just in dating. That's how this started, but that's not what the whole conversation should be about. Right. If you a lawyer and your man is a bus driver and you good with it, then be good with it. Right. But if you ain't good with it, you get to not be good with it. And if we want to sit here and debate what her choice is, then we debating the wrong shit. We all do it. We all watch mediocrity lead. And every single day, as we watch the television and the news, and we see all of the police, the school shootings, and what do? We do thoughts and prayers and all of this kind of stuff. I'm expanding the conversation here because I want to shift and move forward. But to me, what she's talking about, it may start off as a small thing, but it ain't no small thing what she's saying at all. At all. And I don't know, I can't speak for all parents, but I always taught my child to strive beyond the average. You don't want to just be average. The average is average, and I got you. Like, there has to be an average, but there's also a thing called fucking up the curve.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? My wife was that student. Was me. I was that student. Yes. My daughter is that student.
Yeah, I blow the curve.
We fuck the curve up.
Yeah.
Every time.
I love it.
Every time. And it seems like this sister here, Ebony, K. Williams has no problem acknowledging that we all need to maybe fuck up the curve. And if you don't think that that's okay, that's fine for you. That's fine for you. But I don't want to rock with someone who's not on the level that I feel that I'm on. And if that means she ends up by herself, that's her choice. Moving it back to a personal. Because this whole topic to me is bigger than just what this person said or what she said.
Yeah.
You know, like this is a whole
bigger than dating.
It's much bigger than dating. It's a community conversation. You know, and I know that you, John, feel that we need to move beyond the race conversation, and I agree with that. I agree with that. But there have been many a night on this show from our earliest days in 2011 up to the present where I've talked about how what happens in my house is of primary concern to me. Next in line being what goes on in my cul-de-sac. Like I rock with my neighbors as if they are my family, especially when it comes to the neighboring neighborhood. You know? And once we dip outside the neighboring neighborhood, then the greater community at large is a concern of mine. And then I rep Virginia. And if I happen to leave the United States, I would be someone that would identify as an American. The point that I'm making is the closer it is to you, the more important that it should be. You know, and I understand the point that she is making. It's important to her to move equally yoked. Go ahead, John. I think I made my point. Go ahead, John. Jump in.
My point is I don't have an issue with her choice. Her choice is her choice. And I don't feel like anybody should have anything to say about her choice, right? It's not a right or wrong, it's hers. Right? It's her truth. My whole point to the whole thing is that we talking about multi-level marketing earlier. That's part of the problem. People running out thinking that they're gonna be these great businessmen and salespeople. That's not your lane. You don't know how to do that.
Yeah,
right?
And they find out the hard way.
You don't know how to do that, right? Find something that you're good at doing and do that shit. Right? And the problem is most people, regardless of race, are not good at that shit that's hard to be good at. Because if it was, everybody would do it. Right? Everybody would do it. Everybody would do it. Right? And again, we get into these back and forths, I believe, unnecessarily, because the woman is extremely intelligent, obviously, and educated, and she's dropping science. But what I'm saying is this: hello, did you not wake up in America? What you're telling me is what everybody should understand clearly. The solution is not talking about it. The solution is not browbeating about it. The solution is not a debate. The solution is education. And I don't mean necessarily on a university level. I mean on the intimate level where people have access to information and they use that access to better the outcome of their particular situation. And that's it.
Ain't no how Steppin, Marcus J, live from NewDen. Legacy Internet Radio. We're getting some love from our brother and your brother listeners. Our brother Damon, the pretty boy, is checking in. He says, "What's up, gents? Good evening, Steph." We get "What's up, gents?" You get "Good evening, Steph."
Good evening.
Yeah, Stella's show is always
evening,
love to fucks up the curve. Yeah, I can dig it. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. All right, and so this will be the last thing that we talk about. Everything that we've already talked about is still on the table, but I want to kind of shut us short here to kind of shift, because there is something that I want to talk about that is important. John, we talked earlier in the pre-show about should there be standards? Should there be a national minimum standard Let me rephrase this to the way we said it. Should there be a national minimum behavior standard for police? And so thank you for allowing me a little patience. I got through that. But should there be a minimum behavior standard for police? So we're going to round table this. John, make your point on that. Steph, make your point on that. I will take the last word on that and take us home. Go ahead, John. What you got?
I just, I spend a significant amount of time being that I'm retired online and social media. And I don't have nothing else to do, so I'll go through social media. Social media is flooded with all of these interactions between police and civilians. And most of the time that I see these interactions that are recorded, the police are just rude, extra rough, and just out of character of what someone I believe who is supposed to be a civil servant, the way they should behave. Now, I will say this. If I'm seeing them, then I believe that these are the minority of interactions between police and civilian. In fairness to the police, I have to say nobody's recording the nice cop. Nobody's recording the interaction that went the way it was supposed to go. And I just gotta believe, like in most things, that that's the majority. The majority of time when police stop somebody and do something, they do it right and da da da. But guess what? One is unacceptable. And I see a lot more than one. And what I believe to be the answer to that is a national, because we can't train police thoroughly the same way because laws are different in different counties and communities in the United States. A lot of people don't really understand, especially a lot of foreigners, but let me correct myself. More Americans, probably less Americans than foreigners, understand exactly how the United States of America works. The states are like individual nations. They really are. And they have their own different laws and rules and stuff. We have a national thing that we go by because we have a national economy and the corporation. We have a president, vice president, and stuff like that. And we have certain governing laws. But there's no law on the federal level that cannot be that is not congruent to the state law and will give you higher protections. It cannot undercut any law in the state, right? So the states have a certain amount of autonomy in operation, right? Which means that you can't train all the police to do the same thing because different things apply in different places. However, the behavior, the way the police communicate, a police officer should never say to someone, "Stop, or I'm gonna blow your fucking head off." Right. Those words should never come out of a police officer's mouth. They shouldn't address people, buddy, pal, hey you, hey jerk, hey, any kind of stuff. If you are hired and paid a salary to protect and serve the community, when you address a person, it should be sir or ma'am, sir or ma'am. If they get into you about a pronoun or whatever, be like, excuse me, I'm sorry, these is what we were given. What would you prefer? And then address them how they preferred, and then explain to them what's going on and take it from there. Too many times, people are forced into a subservient, slave-like position when being when interacting with the police. They put people on their knees in public. They put them face down on the ground. But that's not what you do to people. If you want to have somebody and talk to them, you can cuff them and put them in back of a car if they not acting crazy. You don't got to lay them on the ground in the rain, in the dirt, in the mud for other people to stand around and watch. You ain't got to put them on their knees, right? Because you fear for your life, for your safety. If you fear for your life and safety, find another job. Go be a librarian, right? But being a cop is you're accepting a walking target on you. You're saying that you're so bad and you're so brave and you're so willing to protect the community that you don't give a damn that people have got a target on you 24/7, that people want to take you out, and you're not afraid of that because you're going to protect the community. Don't tell me that you're afraid of a guy because he was walking out the store and you yelled at him, "Hey, buddy," and he turned around fast, and that made you so scared that you and your friends had to jump him, throw him to the ground, punch him in the face, kick him, handcuff him behind his back, break his arm, just to find out he wasn't the guy you was looking for. Right? So there needs to be something, I believe, that's like a 4-week training course after you finish your police academy in your local area, where you go to get the national minimum standard of behavior and how you communicate and interact with the public, which is more important than actually knowing the law, which most police don't know. They only know the municipal enforcements and what they're allowed and not allowed to do. And they do the shit they're not supposed to do all the time. And nobody ever says anything about it because the police police the police. That's another problem. That's a whole nother subject for another show. But back to what I was thinking was, we have to somehow find and get our elected officials on the federal level, our Congress people and senators, to write something up where there is a minimum standard of behavior and a certificate of fitness to perform the position of police officer that has to be done at least every 2 years.
So what do you think, Steph? Is there merit to having the police force across the country be aligned in their training?
Yeah, I think John makes a really good point. I mean, even traveling state to state is risky for the average citizen, and they don't realize it because, to your point, how police interaction occurs would be very different. You know, I was reading a story about a couple who was traveling from Georgia to the Midwest, and they had to drive through Tennessee, and they had minimal amounts of marijuana in the car. And the Tennessee State Police took their children, you know, and put their children into foster care and everything, into the CPS system. But the way that they spoke to these people when they pulled them over, the way that they engaged with them, was they immediately treated them like criminals, you know, just from the very beginning. And so I do think it should be that there's a national standard of behavior. I absolutely think that. I think that what makes it difficult is you're dealing with humans, and this level of ego and this level. A lot of times when I see, and I agree with you, you don't see the fact that we're seeing those videos means that it's not the norm. You know, the average. I've been pulled over. I'm sure we've all been pulled over. And if you have your license and your registration and everything else, you don't get a whole lot of grief. Those times when you do, or when you see someone that does, for instance, a recent video, a young man appeared to have run a stop sign. He pulled up in his parents' yard, and the female police officer is standing there, and the entire time she's got her hand on her gun, and she is being aggressive with the parent, who is saying, "Hey, listen, give him a citation and let's see you in court. I don't know why all this other stuff is happening. I don't know why this threatening demeanor." And I think for John to get what is really a good resolution, I think for you to get that, it would almost have to change in how they hire and how they train in the very beginning, and the hiring standards for police officers and who they look for and everything else. You know, it's interesting to me that we bring up protect and serve. There is no protect and serve. That's no longer the mantra. That's no longer. And even when they, to John's point, when they were saying it, it wasn't necessarily the truth for everyone. It wasn't the experience. I think that would be the only way to reduce these negative interactions, is for police to recognize that your primary responsibility is to the community at large, to the greater community. And that means when you pull your community members over, You don't need to have your gun on your hand on your gun the minute you walk up to the car. You don't need to use abrupt and nasty tones because you already know what you're going to elicit from the average person when you do that. So, I mean, it would be nice to see a code of standards, kind of like how you have with, federal judges. So I think this is not SCOTUS, but everyone else. This is a standard of behavior. Yeah, standard of behavior, right? And so it would be nice, but I think what will prevent that is that now the police see the people as the enemy and the people see the police as the enemy. And so now the entire approach is about how the police approach everything. And even when you were saying you're someone being scared, if you're scared, you should not have a gun. I don't want to risk being shot, so I would not be a police officer because I know that gun on my hip, I might be trigger happy simply because I'm fearful and want to protect myself. I don't believe that I can handle a man that's bigger and taller and everything else. And if he has a moment of what I perceive to be aggression, who knows how I'll behave? Therefore, I'm not entitled to be a police officer. I think that there should be a greater understanding of who should be policing us. And that is where we got off, is now they come back from war, PTSD. War is to police the enemy. Militaries police the enemy, military members. Now you make them a part of the police force and they're interacting with the everyday citizen like the enemy. We're going to have those problems. And I think as long as we have like this whole perception of where we've politicized policing, and it's that one party backs the blue and another party doesn't, and so on and so forth, we will continue to see this bad behavior, and it will be based on how they view the people versus how they view the people as a community.
Ain't no has Steppin Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. Shout out to Jersey City. They are hanging out with us tonight. Our sister Alexis says peace to everyone. And our brother Iman Ali, one of my favorite brothers from Jersey City, one of the funniest brothers I ever met. He was on the very first show launched on Legacy Internet Radio, the show that we launched live from Big Rube's Kitchen. Our brother Iman Ali was on that show. So I haven't seen him check in quite a while, but we did that show in March of 2013. So that means that you've been rocking with us a long time, brother. I rocks with you. I appreciate you, and thank you for supporting us. On this topic, pretty much everything's been said. I agree with you both in spirit. I'll just add something that I would like to see in reference to if we're talking about a national way of viewing police officers. I think there should be a national database of former police officers so that when one leaves a jurisdiction after some sort of controversial situation, is not showing up in another town that may not have done the type of vetting that would, expose your last step. For example, I believe it's the police officer, one of the police officers that killed someone and got off. I probably should know this before I say the name. I know that I saw it recently. I think it was Kim Palmer actually. Let me Google it, and multitask as I speak it here. But and if that's not the one, then so be it. But there was a police officer who had killed someone, and obviously was released from. Actually, you know what? I'm mixing stories. Kim Palmer was the one that killed somebody and just recently got out of jail.
Yes.
That I'm mixing stories. But there was a police officer that killed someone that just found another job somewhere. And so I'm going to go ahead and find that, because now that I said it, I don't want to leave that as a loose end. And so I'll go ahead and I'll effort that, and I'll read it before we close out the show tonight. But the point that I'm making here is, if at the very least, even if the grand jury decided to not bring charges, there's a scarlet letter hung around your neck about how you performed in the place that you was just at. And I think for the confidence of the people in the jurisdiction that you're applying to, I think perhaps we should choose a different candidate. as opposed to the person that killed somebody and got away with it. Now, they're going to tell you they didn't do nothing wrong. That's what they're going to tell you, which is the reason why the grand jury did not indict.
Yeah.
So they're going to tell you the person didn't do anything wrong. But I think for the confidence of the community, let's probably go with somebody else. And so I think keeping with the topic, different angle than the angle that you guys went down, but I think keeping with the topic, that would be something that I would love to add. Whether they choose to use it as a means of keeping someone from being a part of their next police force, I think at the very minimum, we should be able to identify who these folks are and how they move before they came here. That's the point that I'm trying to get at. Ain't no how Steppin. We're Marcus J. live from NewDen Legacy and Radio. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and look up who that person was while Steph and John are in their rants, but we got some housekeeping to complete before we get even that far. So this is where we move into our moment in Black history, and this is where we move into looking for our missing children. So this week in Black history, we got a couple things. Let's start. Let's see. I got two of them in 1961. So two this week in 1961. A white mob sets fire to a bus carrying Freedom Riders, an interracial group challenging segregation near Anniston, Alabama, and attacks rioters with clubs, bricks, iron pipes, and knives. They really didn't want us. Now, 1961. My daddy was a teenage. Both my parents was teenagers, so they would have been well aware of what was going on in the country. Just for context, like there are people alive that remember this stuff, not me reading a moment in Black history for the host of viewers and listeners that are with us, but keeping in mind there are elders that be like, yeah, man, I remember when that shit happened. Yeah. Let us not forget that. Also in 1961, Freedom Rider, future United States Congressman from Georgia, is assaulted for attempting to enter the white waiting room at the Greyhound bus terminal in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Who was it? Freedom Rider and future United States Congressman from Georgia, John Lewis. John Lewis. Let's see. Do one more. Let's bring it to present day. 2010. Schools in Tucson, Arizona are barred from teaching Mexican American studies this week. After the governor signs a bill banning all ethnic studies courses. So let's get this right. The governor signs a bill that bans, it sounds very similar to what Governor Ron DeSantis is trying to do down there in Florida right now. And this is 2010. That's like
nothing new.
A lot of years ago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna carry the one. Yeah. So yeah. So
there's nothing new, is it?
No, nothing new under the sun. I do every once in a while. I'll remind everybody why I do the moment in Black history. I do the moment in Black history because it's always going to be a jewel, some of which will be during our lifetimes. Be like, oh yeah, like I joked about the elders a minute ago. Like, yeah, I do remember that, and it'll be prideful. But then there'll be others where I very specifically try to remind us today of the history of our country and why certain circumstances that we live on under now and how we got here. And when we know better, we should do better. I love one of the things that John says to try to kind of take the race out of it. And where I would co-sign that is the piece that I always say, where I talk about how live your life in a way where this stuff doesn't affect you. Like try to create a life for yourself where that stuff doesn't affect you. There's varying levels of it. There are those that are going to be completely detached. We know them. There are those that are going to be completely immersed. We know them too. But we don't know their personal life and how they move outside of what they show us. And at the end of the day, we all have to find our way through this, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad would say, the wilderness of North America. We got to find our way through it. And how we do that is how we do that. So ain't no how Steph Marks J, live from NewDen Legacy NN Radio. Stepping off of one soapbox onto another. This is where we look for our missing children. This week, we're looking for Kemya Mills. Kemya Mills is missing from Henrico County here in the Richmond area, Cap City. She's a 17-year-old Black female, stands 5'5", 160. Last seen on March 1st. She requires medication, so she may be in the need of medical attention. We're also looking in Henrico County for Angelique Crawford. We profiled her before. We're still looking for her. 16-year-old Black female. She's 5'3", 120. Last seen wearing gray shorts, black puffer jacket, blue jeans, white shoes, and her hair is styled in long braids. If you've seen Angelique Crawford or if you've seen Kemya Mills, please contact the Henrico County Police Department at 804-501-5000. If you've seen Kemya Mills or if you've seen Angelique Crawford, please contact the Henrico County Police Department at 804-501-5000 or contact the National Center for Missing and/or Exploited Children on their website, missingkids.org, or contact them by phone at 1-800-THE-LOST. 1-800-843-5678. Ain't no hot stepping. We're Marcus J. live from NewDen, Legacy NN Radio. This is where I turn over the con to the co-hosts, plural, of the show. My brother and my sister John and Steph, who I love very much. Both of them, y'all are outstanding. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to spend these hours with you guys each and every Monday for got to be coming up on 4 years soon. So I need to go back and see when time frame was and when. So because y'all know I like anniversaries. Yes, I like anniversaries. So yeah, so I got to go find. So I got to figure out when all of that stuff. So that's my homework for the coming weeks and months to figure out. Even if I can't find the day, I'm gonna find the time frame that we're gonna celebrate. So, and I know it's been a few years that we are officially pre-pandemic, and the pandemic has been 3 years. So you already know what it is for us. So I love you, John. I love you, Steph. Your turn to rock the mic, John. You got the con. Take us home with your rant, your closing. What you be wanting to say and stuff.
I'm gonna try to keep it short. I'm gonna try to keep it simple. People, listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. There's certain things you need to do if you want to survive this wilderness of North America, right? First thing you need to do, right, is get you some whole life insurance. I'm going to keep saying it till y'all start doing it, right? Whole life insurance is what you need. There's so many different types of policies. Just get one and then educate yourself about it and thank me later, right? Also, if you are a family, even if you're not, but especially if you're a family, if you a couple with some kids or whatever, set up a trust, set up a living trust, right? Get you an attorney to do it for you. Cost you anywhere from $800 to $1,250. That's a weekend for most people. If you're partying, hanging out, or whatever, just don't get a trust. Get you a trust. Get you a couple of LLCs. Get them out of Wyoming. Thank me later. Right? Get you a couple of LLCs. Make one of them a holding company. Right? When your children are born, brand new babies, get an LLC for your children. Right? Set it up for them. You could pay your kids. Right? As opposed to trying to save some money in the Gerber Life and not the Gerber Life kind of, but the piggy bank and all that. No, you could pay them. Right? And you can write that off. There's different little things you can do. But get an LLCs for all your kids. Get your own LLC. Get your trust. Put everything you own in a trust. Get life insurance policies on those brand new babies. Not because you're worried about them dying, because you're worried about them living. Right? And when the time they become adults, they'll have enough money and they'll have a bank that they could borrow against interest-free with no taxes. Right? Make the trust the beneficiary on everybody's life insurance policy. So when they pass, that money goes into the trust. So maybe not your grandkids, but your grandkids might have an idea of the true American dream, which is being able to live without concern for how your bills are going to be paid. Not saying that you're going to have a sprawling estate. Not saying that you're going to be, the Beyoncés and the Jay-Z's or whatever, but your family will have a nest egg of money that's making enough money that can sustain the lifestyle of the family. So you're not worried about, oh, I got to get a job. So I'm going to go take the test for bus driver and get that because they hiring. No, you get to take some time and figure out what it is you're good at and what you want to do and how you want to contribute to society. And if you can get somebody to pay you for it, great. But you're not worried about a roof over your head. You're not worried about food in your stomach or clothes on your back because you have a trust. You have an estate. You have something that your family has created. You have wealth, right? Wealth is accumulated monies that are not money that's being generated through work. Being rich is not having a lot of money. Being rich is having money that makes money for you as opposed to you making money, right? So to be rich and wealthy, you got to get the thought process out of your mind of everything you see on Instagram and shit, because that ain't what it's about. It's about having accumulated money that isn't affected by your income, right? And being rich is having your income being made by your money as opposed to you trying to make the money. It doesn't matter how much it is. It matters that that's the order of operation. Because as long as you got to work for a living, you'll never be rich. I don't care how much money you get. I don't care how much money they pay the basketball players and the rappers and whoever else you think people that are rich. Because if they stop doing that and they don't have any more money, they not rich and they were never rich. But if you got a guy that got a life insurance policy that he started about 30 years ago, and right now that's paying him a dividend, and a policy is paying for itself, and he can borrow against the death benefit to pay for a car or buy a house to do whatever he want to do. He don't got to go to a bank or a mortgage company. He's his own bank. Then he's rich, even if it's only a few thousand and not a few hundred million. Now I'm going to close this rant out with something else I think you people need to know. And for some reason, I don't know why people don't know it, but I see too many times online that people obviously don't know it. What to do when you get pulled over by the police. Pay careful attention, black people, because I'm talking to you specifically. You cannot do what the white people do. You cannot talk about what you pull me over for, and you ain't got the right, and I got the right to travel by any means common, and I don't have a license and a plate. That shut up. I did all of that. You're wasting your time. I could tell you what the Constitution says, and I could always tell you what the different states say, what they can do on those state roads, right? So you can get hit in the head and go to jail, and then go in front of a judge who will say, you know what? Hey, you was right, but in the meantime, give us $500 and go home. That's what all your I was right, they was wrong shit will get you. When you get pulled over by the police, put on your hazard lights. Pull to the side. Turn on the lights in the car. I don't give a shit if it's daytime. Turn the car off. We'll put it in park. Turn the car off. Roll down all the windows. I do not care how cold it is outside. Roll down all the windows. If the cop has not gotten out of the car, get your license and registration and put it on the dashboard in front of you. If he has got out of the car, take your hands, put them on top of the steering wheel, sit there and relax. And when he comes to that, what you say to him is, how may I help you, officer? Do you know why I pulled you over? I have no idea, officer. Don't tell him, yeah, I know I was speeding or did it. No, don't give him nothing. I have no idea, officer. Would you tell me why, please? I pulled you over for this reason, that reason, the other reason. Could I get your license, registration, insurance? Here you are, officer. Keep your hands right there. The windows are down. And you're going to mess him up because if it's night, he's going to have that flashlight, but the lights is on in the car. So the flashlight ain't doing nothing. And the windows is down. He looking in the car. He see everything he need to see. So you know what that does? That takes his scary ass, right, and calms him the fuck down so you may not get shot, right? Hazard lights, pull over, windows down, park, engine off, lights on, hands on the steering wheel. How may I help you, officer? Thank me later. And that's my rant.
Ain't no half Steppin, Marcus J live from NewDen. Legacy Internet Radio. Steph, you ready to take us home? You ready to rant?
Yeah.
And close? Yeah.
I'm not really ranting.
No?
No.
Okay.
No. I'm more, I want to encourage people tonight.
Okay.
Which is, typically my
Let's
goal.
make that the move. Steph's encouragements.
Yes, I'm encouraging them.
See, it's
during
Marcus's
my
rant.
rant.
It's the myrrh.
It's the
Marcus's
myrrh.
unrelated rants. Steph's encouragements.
Yeah, tonight it's an encouragement within the rant.
I'll figure out mine later.
But during the rant, I usually try to bring things up that are going to be beneficial to people that are listening. And lately I have been looking at how uncomfortable people are with words. And I'll see these posts, check on your strong friends and, and things like that. Listen, everyone right now needs checking on. Most people need some level of encouragement. But I think that we often struggle with being able to give people what they need, as Marcus would say, their flowers. I was listening to something the other day, and a young woman was really, she was on Twitter, and then I listened to her follow up to her tweet. And in the tweet, she mentioned how she had failed some classes. She had struggled through college. It took her 5 years. And she was listing all of the perceived failures she had along the way to finally graduating, which was a goal of hers. And when I went into the comments, there were a lot of people telling her what she could have and should have done. Every journey is not going to be perfect. It's not going to be that you are learning to ride your bike on the smoothest pavement without any bumps and you never fall. The fact of the matter is, most successful people can go back to the moments in which they had situations that they would perceive as a failure, and they worked through it. But what they really had that made things better for them were people who gave them the words of encouragement that they need. And in a society where we all have access to social media, and it allows us to be able to say things that, sometimes we shouldn't say, people are bolder than they should be. I would encourage people to recognize that it is more difficult to spend your time in the negative than it is to offload the positive. So what I would say, the first step to communicating positively at all costs is that if a positive thought comes in your head about someone else, remember that it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to them. When you think something positive about someone else, pick up the phone, call them and tell them, text them, give them insight into the thought that was in your head. It wasn't meant for you. I had someone the other day say, you really know how to use words to make people feel loved. And I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's nice. Thank you. I appreciate it. And then I happened to be sitting in Starbucks and a man walked in, brother, dressed very nicely. Wasn't that he was in a suit and a tie. He was in jeans and a a t-shirt, like a pullover t-shirt and a layered sweater. He just had a nice aesthetic. And, I watched him and he's getting his drink and everything else. And then he stands right by my table. And a thought about him came into my mind. And I looked at him, I said, excuse me. And he says, yeah. And I said, you really dress yourself well. You look great. these jeans look great on you. I was like, you really know how to put yourself together. And he looked at me and he said, you really know how to compliment someone. And it was the second time that someone has said that I compliment people well. And I thought to myself, it's not because I care so much about the compliment, it's that the words don't belong to me. That the compliment, the words, the goodness belonged to him. It didn't make sense for it to sit in my head. And I often think, why am I not comfortable when strange men compliment me? Because the words weren't centered on me. It was centered on them getting their emotion out. The thing that they wanted to say about me wasn't something to make me comfortable with myself. It was something to make me know that I'm a target of their desire or their interest. And often we will get something in our heads that's about someone, has nothing to do with us, but would really uplift them, and we hold it. But the minute we see something or hear something that is negative, that we want to say about someone, our fingers get busy on keyboards, or we say those things to people, or we love to be comfortable that I speak my mind. Well, speak your mind to the positive. I think that children need to hear it more. You know, I've been listening to my own daughter, who is now 25, and getting into a space of listening to how people communicate. And she was telling me about her commute from Jersey City to Brooklyn. And she said, there's a lady who always curses at her children. And she was talking about how much it bothered her. And in the back of my mind, I was like, that's because I never cursed at my children when I was raising them. Because children who are yelled at constantly become adults that don't hear without being yelled at. And I said to her, well, we didn't curse at you to communicate. We didn't scream at you to communicate. We understood that you were humans that could hear us. We didn't need to belittle you to get a point across. And that's why it bothers you so much to hear that person. And I'm glad that you know that. You know that she's wrong. And remember that when you have your own children. How we communicate is impactful. It's impactful in the greater universe, in our public surroundings. It's impactful in our love relationships, in how we engage one another. And often we are so comfortable telling people we want to be the big bad wolf. I don't mind speaking my mind. Yeah, sure. But do you speak your mind when it's to the kind of truth that lends power to goodness? Are you Donald Trump? Is it funny all the time to make someone the butt of your jokes? Or are you capable of looking at someone and thinking a good thing and serving it to them? There is someone who needs to hear it. You might be the person that needs to hear good things, and that's why you're not speaking them, because you're not hearing them. And so that's just my encouragement. You know, communication is so significantly important. I've been thinking about how I communicate with other people. And I would challenge you that if there are people in your life that you can't communicate well with, you probably should disengage, because you're not serving one another. And that's my rant.
And I have Steppin Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. So I guess it's my turn to close us out with my own rant and my closing. And I want to share a story about my time at the river yesterday. Anybody that knows me knows that on Sunday mornings, well, first of all, Sunday is my day. Like, I must really, let me just say this publicly in front of everybody. If I rock with you on a Sunday, I really rock with you, because Sunday is my day. I think that we should all remember that first preservation is the first law of the land. We spend so much time of our life in service to other people, as we should, that we often forget ourselves. And when we take time for ourselves, you're going to find some people that's going to have shade for you for taking time for yourself. Like, really? So I take my day. I take Sunday. And like I said, if I rock with you, I really rock. I really rock with you. Because most of the time, I would rather spend the day in solitude. or community if I choose to. But it's about me and the choice that I make. Like, don't try to schedule my Sunday. Like, don't do that shit. And yeah, I'm just saying. So yesterday was Sunday. Had my class at 9:30. I left my class. I went straight to the river. I got my spot there where I like to sit. And when I get there, I like to listen to the service that I like to listen to. When I first started going out there, it was podcasts and whatever I was listening to. But now, as I've kind of shifted a little bit, I like to listen to service. And the service that I like to listen to is the Village of Faith Church, Congressman Reverend Dr. Mike Jones here in the Richmond, Virginia area. Now, this is the first time I actually said it all out like that. I've been kind of rocking with them for a little while. I don't, it takes a lot for me to put you over. I just put you over, Mike. So I'll let your boy. So anyway, I'm sitting in my spot and I'm listening, burning my sage, doing what I do out there, right? And this guy walks by, a white guy about our age, weathered red tan on him. Looks like he's seen some rough days, and he walks by, he's got this little dog. And he gets really frustrated with the dog. I'm in my own space. I'm not really paying attention to him, but he's literally walking past me. As he gets right in front of me, he almost trips over the dog. So he picks it. The dog is small now. He picks up the dog with one hand and he starts fussing at the dog, complete with the cussing. Like, I told you not to do that. And all of the stuff he's saying to the dog, and it's not feeling so great. Right. And I'm looking at the dude like, really? Right in front of me? Really? You're going to assault the dog right in front of me? I mean, come on, man. Like, because it was right in front of me, He keeps on going. I continue doing what I was doing. I was writing my journal. I was, doing what I do. And he comes back less than 2 minutes later. Now, I've kind of shifted. I'm not paying attention to him anymore. So by the time he gets to me, he's like close because I had kind of shifted my attention. And he goes, man, I'm so happy I saw you here today. And looking at him, he says, man, I've had the worst day. I've had the worst time. Everything's going wrong. I'm really, really frustrated. And you see these keys? And he's shaking them. Shh. You see these keys, man? If I'd have lost these keys, that would have been the thing that took me over the edge. And I'm telling you, something bad would have happened. But I found my keys. And you know what else I found? I found you sitting here because as I'm listening, I hear the guy speaking. I hear the sermon. I didn't pay too much attention to the words, but I could hear what it is. And I heard him reference deity. He didn't use that word. That's my word. But I hear it. And my daddy is the preacher. And my daddy ain't here no more. And if he was here, he would have told me to kind of get myself out of the malaise that I'm in. I'm paraphrasing. So I appreciate you being here. And I thank you. The whole time he's talking, at least in the beginning part that he's talking, the whole time I'm sitting there and I'm looking at him with the blank stare. If you know me, you know what's coming. I'm thinking, why are you talking to me? Why are you talking to me? Like, really, why are you talking to me? But as he began to talk, and as he got further in the things he was saying, what was pounding in my ears, louder than his words. And he finished, went about his way. We bid each other adieu. We told each other peace. I told him be safe. He said thank you. And he clearly was much kinder to the dog because he had picked up the dog and he was walking off with it. And then I said to myself, you never know what somebody's going through. You never know. You never know. And all you have to do is be kind. Because I promise you, I did not want to be talked to at that moment. Because you know me, like I can give off the don't talk to me vibe. Steph said yes real quick, y'all. She ain't got a mic on, but I heard her. I give off the don't talk to me vibe. And I know I was giving it off to him because I was trying to give that off to him. But he softened me as he began to tell the story. And I could tell it was real. And I kept thinking as he walked off, and as I thought about his experience and I thought about my own, You never know what someone is going through. And the least you can do is be kind. As human beings, as people, be kind. I never showed him any disrespect. I'm pretty confident he didn't feel the stop talking to me vibe because I was careful not to show it. But the point is, and I'll say it again, you never know what somebody's going through. And this brother ended up feeling pretty good when he walked off. And I'm not taking any credit for that. It didn't have nothing to do with me. It was the circumstances aligning, because to hear him talk about how had he not found them keys, it was pretty scary, but I'm glad he found them keys. And I'm glad that he heard Reverend Dr. Congressman Mike Jones speaking, because it gave him an opportunity to feel the comfort and think about his dad and think about the jewel that he may have gotten from his dad had his dad been around. And that's a compassion moment that I hope that we can all learn from, get something from, and perhaps pay forward. That's the Marcus's absolutely unrelated rant that really, really, really had nothing to do what we are in here talking about tonight. That's the end of the show, y'all. I want to remind everybody that independence is the key to building your legacy. Also, want to say peace to all of the stars and all of the squares. In the abundance of water, the fool is thirsty. Those are the words of Bob Marley, who quit singing about 2.5 minutes ago. We're celebrating over 11, going on 12 years of live podcasting and internet radio. I want to remind everybody that authenticity has no competition. I want you to be blessed. I want you to give grace, but I want you to remember to always keep it 100. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J live from NewDen of Legacy Internet Radio will return. We'll be back here at a later show. Thank you for being on this one. For Steph, for John, peace.
Oh, yeah. I'm with this, I'm just gonna lay back and I'ma drop some smooth lyrics. So tune in 7 to 9:30 and don't be late. We about to set it straight. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Word. I'm ready, let's go. Ain't no half stepping, that's the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunters talk sprinkle with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With you flowing this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the D, legacy online. 7 and 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, we full force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk, run it back. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, we full force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk. Steppin', that's the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunters talk sprinkle with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With you flowing this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the D, legacy online. 7 and 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, we full force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk.